SLA Video Productions presents from the beautiful Westlake Community Services Center in Westlake, Ohio. It's Westlake Live!
Good morning, everyone. We have a little different kind of subject today because we like to be well-rounded in what we talk about. And it's environmental because, as we know, as the climate is getting warmer, we're all going to have to play a part in making changes to our everyday life. And although we can't individually make it go away or turn it around, all the things we do collectively make a big difference. So today we're talking to Zoe Apisdorf, who is in marketing at Rust Belt Riders, which is a local business that's helping us with our food waste. So Zoe, if you want to just take it from there and tell us how you got started and what you do and why. And
Sure, thank you. I've, like many people at Rust Belt Riders, held multiple roles with the company. And so right now I'm in sort of more of a development role, but have really experienced a lot of the hauling side of the business as well as the team building. So Rust Belt Riders was founded in 2014. The company was founded by Daniel Brown and Michael Robinson. But at the same time, there was another gentleman in our community, Nathan Rutz, who was also collecting coffee grounds and trying to make compost with them. As Clevelanders do, they eventually ran into each other and started working together to increase the amount of food scraps collected in and around the greater Cleveland area, 2014 and beyond, up until now. So when Dan and Michael first started, they were collecting food scraps on the backs of their bicycles. They got a couple bikes, a couple trailers, a few contacts from the restaurant industry, and thought, man, there's really something here. There's a lot of food waste that they saw coming out of restaurants, and then people started to sort of get a whiff, a very good whiff of what was happening, and it started to grow. And so more food scraps were collected. They partnered in the beginning with the Ben Franklin Community Garden, Riddall Green Partners, and Kurtz Brothers to compost that food waste until we could start composting it on our own at our facility. And we still do hold some composting partners that help us process the material and have been working on processing the material ourselves. So when we first started, it was just a commercial food scrap collection business. Commercial food scrap collections being different than residential, which eventually came later in 2019. But the commercial food scraps, are coming from restaurants, grocery stores, businesses, coffee shops, breweries, this kind of, commercial industry. And then our residential materials now come from people's front porches and at our community established drop-off sites. Eventually then, about 2.5 years ago, we established Tilth Soil, which are the soil products that we make with the collected material.
Wow, that's fantastic. I don't know, to me, this all goes back to where we started. This is how we used to farm and garden, and we didn't throw these things in landfills, which are extremely creating high levels of methane in landfills, where in your compost, which I compost in my backyard because I have the space. Not everybody can do that. If you live in an apartment, you can't do that. Or maybe, my yard is not exactly, pretty in the backyard, so it's okay, kind of hidden in the back corner. So tell us about what happens to food scraps when we're not composting.
Sure. So there's really, 3 options for food scraps, sort of, maybe 4 if you have chickens or another animal, right? But we could take our food scraps and we could put them in the trash can. And food scraps, we're thinking like eggshells, coffee grounds, things that you're not eating but are like right there as a part of your food, your leftovers. Some of those things make their way into the trash can. Some of those things make their way down the garbage disposal. And some of those things make their way into a compost pile, whether that's directly in your backyard or your neighbor's yard or one of Rust Belt's community bins. And like you said, Cheryl, this really is not a new concept, of course, right? We've, out of necessity, space limitations, but also the need to build healthy home gardens, been processing our own waste, hopefully, fingers crossed, for many, many generations. And so recently, though, I think for various reasons that maybe we could talk about on another show, more and more waste has been being generated, and more of that waste has been going into the landfill. Now, there's about 25% of, imagine your bag of garbage. Through various research, there's been shown that about 25% of that bag of garbage is organic material, or what we call organics, which is compostable material, coffee grounds, tea bags, food scraps, leftovers, that kind of source. And that goes into the landfill and it gets mixed up with other trash bits, plastics, metals, these things that aren't recyclable or compostable. And it all compiles on top of each other. And what happens is that there's zero oxygen available in that landfill mass. And because of that, the material rots and emits gas or methane, much more potent than carbon dioxide on a shorter time period, which is what makes it such a hardy issue, that it's methane that's being emitted because it's so much more potent than carbon dioxide on that shorter time period. And so without the proper amendments, right, or other proper ingredients, or I had just talked about this recently, the proper additives like carbon, wood chips, sawdust, leaves, oxygen, moisture, and of course the friendly microbacteria, right, that is in a compost pile, we're not going to have the same nutrient generating effects that we get out of our compost pile if we were to put things in a landfill. And so while it's not now, and similarly, and I was trying to look into this before I came, but the same thing or something similar happens when we put the food scraps down the garbage disposal, because it gets ground up and it goes into our wastewater treatment plants. Now, I'm not exactly sure what Westlake's wastewater treatment plant is doing with that end product, this slurry product that comes out of, our human waste mixed up with the food waste that comes through the garbage disposal, and that.
Sounds like it's just another expense of how they have to clean it.
It can be. And some places, some sewer districts do compost that end material. I'm just not sure on Westlake.
Right.
Outlet.
Right.